Hello. I'm now joining in the Rasslin and Logic podcast, episode 14. I am, of course, Joshua James Jenkins, otherwise known as Triple J, or you can go by Josh times 3, or, just call me Josh. Doesn't really matter either way. And I am coming to you live. Well, not live, this is pre-recorded, from an outside location in my hometown of Aberystwyth. And I am just going to provide you my thoughts about the most recent pay-per-view in wrestling. That was from AEW, being, of course, Double or Nothing. And the main question that I have about this entire pay-per-view is: did AEW, did they go double or nothing to get me to reinvest into their product on a weekly basis from here on out? That is the question that I will be answering at the end of this video. Now, Jim Ross, he welcomes us to the pay-per-view and promises a epic night for pro wrestling. And JR, from me to you, don't make a promise that you can't live up to. Because the majority of what I saw on this pay-per-view here didn't exactly live up to the promise that you've made here right at the very opening few moments of this pay-per-view. And let me just try that again. Of the opening few moments of this pay-per-view. Now, the opening match of this pay-per-view was, of course, Brian Cage going against Hangman Page. Now, this was a all-right match from a in-ring perspective. They put on a decent wrestling match, I will admit. However, based off the logic of the entire match from start to end, it basically gets a 0 out of 10. Mainly because of the rules not being followed properly to the way that they should be. So Hangman Page versus Brian Cage, to me, from a logical standpoint, is a 0 out of 10. Now, a quick note about the entrances. Brian Cage came out with a new attire, wearing armor that looks like a mixture of the Terminator and Mad Max. I don't know if you guys got that same vibe, but to me it was a mixture of the Terminator and Mad Max. So it was very interesting to see him wearing that type of armor for his entrance here for this match. Then, of course, Hangman Page came down, as he usually does in his usual way. Now we quickly get into the reason why I gave this a 0 out of 10 based on logic. Because Cage and Hangman, they leave the ring. Cage powerbombs Hangman against the ring post. And by the time that they both re-enter the ring, about 20 to 25 seconds went by, meaning that the referee could have counted them out at least twice, or even twice and a half. But no, the referee never once got to a count of 10. The rest of the match happens, and at one point Brian Cage hits Hangman Page with an F5 off the top turnbuckle into a pin, and Hangman kicks out. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, if you're going to hit that move, that's the end of the match right there and then. To kick out of that is a bit ridiculous from my point of view. I'm just saying. And then, of course, Hangman hit the F5 on Brian Cage at some point after that. Ridiculous, man. Isn't that move supposed to be a finishing move? Not just a regular move? Come on now. Anyway, yeah, the rest of the match happens, and then right at the end, Ricky Starks and Hook, like the other members of Team Taz, they come down to the ring. They basically distract Brian Cage. Hangman Page hits Brian Cage with the buckshot lariat finishing maneuver into the pin for the 3 count and the illegal win. Now, why did they even need to come down at all? All it should have been is Brian Cage versus Hangman Page one-on-one. That's all it should have been. Do you know how stupid it was to have Brian Cage be distracted by his own teammates? Do you know how pathetic that was? Because right at the end, right, he basically threw Hangman Page over the top rope, then just walked away to the other side of the ring just to talk down to his teammates, right? And then he turns around and bang! He gets hit by the buckshot lariat like a fool. I don't know, man. I just didn't buy in to the finish as something to be a believable ending to the match that they had just put on. It just wasn't believable to me. Logic 0 out of 10. Next up now we have Nick and Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks, defending the AEW Tag Team Championship against Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. Now, before this match got started, we got shown a pre-match video package highlighting the build-up of this match. It was a simple video package. It did its job to basically inform me on how this match has developed over time and why it's happening here right now. Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley now make their entrance together through the crowd, through the licensed theme song being Wild Thing. And yeah, they look like they were having a wild time making their entrance. Moxley kicking down chairs, trying to basically break anything that's in his way. What a crazy guy he is, right? you know. Yeah, well. And then of course Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, the AEW Tag Team Champions themselves, who make their entrance down into the ring. And now, before the bell even gets rung, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, they now attack the Young Bucks, right? As the Young Bucks were in the ring with the streamers pouring down on them. Now they brawl at ringside and through the crowd for a few minutes. Right? They brawl a few minutes at ringside and back through the crowd, even before the bell even rings to officially start this match. And now I'm here watching this thinking, oh God, this is absolute garbage. Like, look, I'm all about wanting to look at this from a positive viewpoint because I want to enjoy what I'm watching, right? Because why would anybody want to watch to not enjoy, you know, what they're watching? But to me, this just didn't make any sense. Now I know they want to kick their asses, okay? I know they want to kick I know they want to kick each other's asses, right? I understand that, but do that in the ring. Ring the bell, and then kick each other's asses in the ring. It's just a bit ridiculous to me to start off brawling for a few minutes, then going back in the ring, and then having the bell being rung. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't even the referee who signalled for the bell to be rung. It was Nick Jackson who did that. And I'm like, how does he have the authority to be the one to signal for the bell to be rung to officially start this match? Now, I understand. Oh, there's a plane. Now, as I was saying before I got interrupted by that plane, now I understand that Nick Jackson is an EVP or whatever the heck he is, right? You know, from a backstage standpoint, right? Look, I understand all that, but when it comes to the in-ring wrestling and the matches that he partakes in, the only thing that he should be having any power of is the wrestling he does in the match. Him being the one to signal for the bell to be rung, that doesn't make any sense. He is the wrestler. He is not the referee. Like, the referee is the one who enforces that power, not the wrestler. So, And now, when the match officially does get started, we now run into an issue that there are no tag ropes to allow any tags to be legally made in between the match itself. Now, I was going to try and just go along with that, but considering it goes against logic in a major way, I just couldn't let it go, and it basically ruined the entire viewpoint of the match for me, because, you know, tag ropes They're the basic fundamentals of how tag team wrestling works. And to not have them there is basically taking me right out of the match itself. You know? Especially when a tag is going to be made. If you don't have a tag rope, then you're not going to have a tag being made, from my viewpoint. And what really got me to want to basically skip to the end of the match, which I did, was when Jon Moxley basically slapped his own hands in the air, which somehow made Eddie Kingston now the new legal member of the team. Apparently, slapping his hands in the air was enough to make a tag to his partner Eddie Kingston. Absolutely pathetic. What an absolute mockery of tag team wrestling that is. I don't care that it was being done in a comedic way to entertain. I don't care. It didn't make any sense, and when something doesn't make any sense, you take me out of the believability of what is going on. You want me to believe? Then make me believe. You don't do nonsense like that. And now, of course, the end of the match. The Young Bucks hit Moxley with knees to the front and back of his head several times. And then Matt covers the pin onto Moxley for the 3 count and the illegal win. And yeah, the other issue I have is not only were the rules being made a joke of, basically, but it was Moxley himself who was the one who got pinned. Now, yes, it was an illegal pin, so technically it doesn't count, but at the same time, Moxley was the wrong guy to be pinned overall. Oh, and Logic for the Young Bucks versus Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley for the AEW Tag Team Championship is, of course, it's going to be a 0 out of 10 because I'm not going to rate it any higher than that, really. Just not going to happen. So yeah. Oh, and I don't have a problem, because I must point this out here. I don't have a problem with the Young Bucks retaining the AEW Tag Team Championship here. It's just I have a problem with the way that the match happened. I just wanted to point that out quickly here before I move on. Now, as I'm walking to the next spot to continue on my review of all of the matches that occurred on the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view, here you can enjoy the view of the landscape that I am seeing in front of me right now. So yeah, you can enjoy this, something to look at here. So yeah. Alright, now, coming up next, was the Casino Battle Royal. That was won by Jungle Boy, which now makes him the new #1 contender for the AEW Championship itself. So yeah, good for him. But as for the actual match itself, well, I'm giving a 0 out of 10 for, based on the logic of it. Yeah. Now the participants representing the clubs were Christian Cage, Matt Sydal, Will Hobbs, Dustin Rhodes and Max Caster. The participants representing the Diamonds were Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, Dark Order number 10, Nick Comoroto and Serpentico. The participants representing the Hearts, the Varsity Blondes, Colt Cabana, Anthony Bowens and Pentagon. And then the participants representing the Spades were Jungle Boy, Mark Quinn, Aaron Solo, Evil Uno and Lee Johnson, and then of course the Joker himself being Leo Rush. Now, as for the actual match itself, Max Caster throws Max Sydal over the top rope for the elimination. Tick. Max Caster charges forward and Christian throws him over the top rope to the outside floor for the elimination. Tick. Dark Order number 10 clotheslines to Serpentico over the top rope to the outside floor for the elimination. Tick. Nick Comoroto throws Dark Order number 10 over the top rope. Dustin now throws Nick over the top rope, and both Nick and Dark Order number 10 land on the outside floor for the double elimination. Tickety tick. And now Nick, who has just been eliminated, he grabs a cowbell and slams it across Dustin's head at ringside. And then Will Hobbs now throws Dustin over the top rope to the outside for the elimination, so that's a tick. Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy now finally enter the ring, because they were outside for a good few minutes, which was a bit ridiculous, because if you're going to come down to the ring based on the time you're supposed to enter, then enter the ring. You don't waste time spending yourself outside of the ring. Because if you're outside of the ring, there should be a ruling for a disqualification for if you don't enter the ring based on, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds at most. You know, there should be a ruling on that to like force your entry into the match. Will Hobbs and Christian now, they roll underneath the bottom rope to the outside, which now made me skip to the end of the match. Now the end of the match, Jungle Boy back body drops Christian over the top rope for the elimination and the illegal victory. And now Jungle Boy is the #1 contender for the AEW Championship. And of course, this entire Casino Battle Royal is now getting a 0 out of 10 for the logic of it. What a stupid match. We now have Cody Rhodes going up against Anthony Ogogo. Anthony makes his entrance into the ring, and then Cody makes his entrance down into the ring. As for the match itself, Ogogo slams Cody down with a Olympic slam into the pin for a 2 count. Cody locks in the cattle mutilation submission onto Ogogo, and then he just lets go for no reason at all. Why lock in a submission just to let go? Why do that? What is the point of putting your opponent in a submission if you're just going to let go for no reason? Do you not want to win the match? Hello? Ogogo knocks Cody down with a clothesline for a 2 count. Ogogo now slams Cody with a spinning accordion bomb, or whatever that move is called, into the pin for a 2 count. Cody now drops Ogogo with a springboard cutter across the canvas. Ogogo climbs down from the top turnbuckle just to climb all the way back up again. That was a bit silly, but you know, he is still new to this, so I will give him a little bit of a pass there. Ogogo now leaps off and connects a frog splash onto Cody for a near fall kick out. Ogogo now knocks Cody down with an uppercut punch, but can't go for the pin as Cody's arm was underneath the bottom rope. Just to have Ogogo slam Cody down with a Yokosuka cutter into the pin for a kick out anyway. So to me, it doesn't matter if Cody's arm was underneath the bottom rope, because Cody was going to kick out regardless of that anyway. So yeah, that was a bit silly. And then Cody slams Ogogo down with the vertebraker for the 3 count and the win. And to my surprise, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 for the logic of it. Yes, finally, there's a match on this that is getting an actual number above 0 for the logic of it. And it gets a full 7 out of 10. Wow! And by the way, was it the right decision to have Cody get the win here? It didn't seem like it. And also, the point of them going against each other based on their nationality? Absolutely ridiculous. Why would you ever want to bring that up for? Why would you ever want to bring that up for as a reason to have a match? I just don't see the point of that, especially now in the year 2021 when we are progressing forward to not do that anymore, or to at least try and not do that anymore. Of course, this is my viewpoint here of what I'm seeing. Of course, my continuation of the matches and my reviewing of them will be continuing on in a moment. Alright, so now we have the TNT Championship defense from Miro against Lance Archer. Lance Archer makes his entrance down into the ring, and then Miro, the current TNT champion, makes his entrance down into the ring. Oh, and by the way, I like Miro's theme song. It's just his character I don't find believable enough to be going out there with this theme song. But I'll explain that at the end of this match. Now, before this match even begins, Lance leaps over the top rope with a suicide dive onto Miro across the ramp. They then enter the ring, and the bell officially rings to officially start this match. Lance, holding Miro's hand in a walking tightrope, Jesus, leaps off the top rope with a moonsault onto Miro into the pin for only a 1 count kick out. Now Miro rolls underneath the bottom rope after this to the outside floor. Lance now follows him out to the outside. Both now are on the outside with barely any count being made. Lance chokeslams Miro through the table on the outside, which I look, from my viewpoint, should technically be a disqualification, but it isn't here because it just isn't. They now re-enter the ring, and by the time they both do re-enter the ring, a count of at least 30 was made, which means they could have been counted out at least 3 times here. Which now makes me wanting to skip to the end of the match, which I do. Miro locks in the Accolade finishing submission onto Lance, which makes Lance pass out for the illegal victory. And the logic of this, I'm going to give it a 0 out of 10, mainly because the rules of the match were being ignored. And the rules are very important to the logic of the match. So yeah, let's get a 0. Miro retained the TNT Championship, which I don't really care for, because one, I don't care about the TNT Championship because I think it's a waste of a championship, because you're basically the champion of the cable company that is allowing AEW to run their programming on a weekly basis. He's not a champion of AEW itself. He's not a champion of anything that is AEW, or a champion that represents anything of AEW. No, he is the champion of a TV cable company. It's like being champion of BBC One here in the UK. Absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, I like Miro's theme song, but the issue I have is that Miro was a comedic character, right? Being all about being fans of games, right? And being a streamer on Twitch. That was his character, right? And it goes from being that to now all of a sudden being a character who kicks his opponent's asses like a monster, like a unbeatable monster in the ring. No, that isn't believable to me. Now, him being a monster, now that is believable, but what I'm trying to get at here is that he is not believable as a monster because of the character that he was portraying himself to be as before he switched over to this new character here that he has right now. You can't go from being a comedic joke to being a kick-ass monster. That doesn't work. That is not how logic works. You can't do that. I'm not buying into that. That isn't believable to me. I'm sorry, Miro, but I can't invest in you because of that. If you were this monster from the very start when you came into AEW to begin with, then I would have no problem with you right now. But because you came in as a comedic joke to begin with, then whatever you're doing now, I can't believe in and I can't invest in. We now move on now to the AEW Women's Championship match between Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida. Britt Baker makes her entrance down into the ring, and then Hikaru Shida, the current reigning and defending AEW Women's Champion, makes her entrance down into the ring. Now, apparently Hikaru Shida has been the AEW Women's Champion for 372 days. Now, I haven't fact-checked that for myself, but if that is true, then she's had quite the long reign for herself. We now get the pre-match introductions being made by Justin Roberts, and now we get into the match itself. Shida grabs a chair and sets it up at ringside. She goes to leap off of it, but Britt attempts to swipe her legs off. But Shida avoids by jumping on the ring apron. Shida now does a moonsault off the middle turnbuckle down onto Shida and Reba at ringside. And doing this, right, they remained on the outside longer than the count of 10. Which now means I'm now going to skip to the end of the match. But before I do that, I just want to point out a few things. Most of this match, from start to finish, was, in a word, sloppy, and lacked intensity to it. They didn't make me look at them believing they really wanted to kick each other's ass to become the AEW Women's Champion. I didn't buy in to what they were doing in the ring. They didn't make me believe that they were truly wanting to put the other opponent down in order to claim victory for the AEW Women's Championship. The intensity wasn't there. It just seemed to me at times that they were afraid to do a move, to take a bump, to put on a believable performance. This was disappointing to watch through. Now, this doesn't account to all women's matches, but it does for this one in specific. The intensity level that they had was like when I was a kid wrestling my teddy bear. Like, it just wasn't believable to me, you know. And then Reba at ringside, right, which didn't make any sense to me. That she did this because it should have ended the match from this point. She smashed a crutch onto Britt, and the reason I didn't see the point in this is mainly because the reason I was a bit confused about this, for a better word for it, is that Rebbe, right, who was at ringside for Britt Baker, she smashed a crutch onto Britt's face. The referee saw this, right, which should have been a disqualification, right, but instead of enforcing the DQ to happen, instead the referee ignored it, and he even counted the pin. Yeah, and this led to my confusion, because if you're going to hit anybody in the match with a weapon, in a match that weapons aren't allowed to be used in, then a disqualification should happen, especially when this is happening with somebody who isn't a participant in the match itself. Outside interference, especially with a weapon, should always be a disqualification in a normal singles wrestling match, bar none. So why was this not a DQ? I don't know, but it should have been. And at some point towards the end of the match, Britt hits a curb stomp onto Shida, onto the AEW Women's Championship itself, only to get a 2-count kick out. Oh, for goodness sake. Right, and then finally at the end of this match, Britt applies the lockjaw finishing submission onto Shida for the tap out and the illegal victory, which now means Britt Baker is now the illegal AEW Women's Champion. Now, on a logic scale, I'm going to give Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida a 0 out of 10. Moving on now to the next match here, which is another tag match, which is going to be tough to get through, especially to watch, for logic. Darby Allin teamed up with Sting to go against Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. Now, before I get into this, I just want to point out that Scorpio Sky here, teaming up with Ethan Page, is a heck of a lot better than anything he ever did as part of SCU, being SoCal Uncensored. Scorpio Sky here actually felt like he was in the tag team that he belongs in. Now, that's no disrespect to his time in SCU with Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. It's just I find him to be a better fit and a better pairing with Ethan Page. That's my opinion, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page make their entrance down into the ring. And then, of course, Darby Allin and Sting make their entrance down into the ring. And then before the match even happens, they all brawl at ringside for a few minutes, and Sting, he even manages to dive off the stage with a crossbody onto absolutely everyone in sight down at ringside. And then Darby whips Scorpio into the ring, the bell gets rung, and this match officially starts. And now I'm going to basically skip to the end of the match. because there's no tag rope, so why am I going to bother watching this tag team match? If you can give me a reason to watch it, then go ahead, but I highly doubt you're going to find one. Now, AEW needs to buy a tag rope. I refuse to watch their tag matches without one. How am I supposed to take the tag matches seriously when there is no tag rope there? Look, the entire match is illegal, and every single tag being made is illegal in the process without having a tag rope there. Look, this is the basics of wrestling. This is the basics of a tag team match itself. It truly is. Look, the tag rope is the entire point of what is and what isn't a legal tag in a tag team match. The tag rope is what makes a tag happen. Without it, there basically is zero tags. It's simple foundation of wrestling that is being ignored here. Simple basics of how to put together a tag team match is being ignored here. Why doesn't AEW have a tag rope? I just don't know, but they should have one. They have like 1 million tag matches every single week, and yet they don't have a tag rope to make any of them legal. Oh, and right, there was a moment right in which everybody was in the ring and Aubrey failed to call for the DQ. Now why would I say this? Because everybody was in the ring at the same time, right? Which means there should be a 5 count happening by the referee to have the other 2 illegal members of the tag match to go back to their corners. And if they don't leave the ring within that 5 count, a disqualification should be had. Yet again, simple basics of how a tag match is run is being ignored. But then again, it doesn't really matter, because there's no tag rope there anyway to make any of this legal. So at this point, to be fair, it doesn't matter if they're all in the ring at the same time, because the match isn't legal anyway. Oh, and to me, age is what you make of it. Sting, being at the age of about 60, can still wrestle quite good for being about the age of 60. Now, age is what you make of it, especially when it comes to wrestling. Sting makes me not see his age, but he makes me only see his wrestling ability in the ring. Sting manages to hide his age in the ring because he still is able to put on a decent performance in the ring, which makes me basically ignore what his age is. So yeah, age is what you make of it. At the end of the match, Sting drops Scorpio down with the Scorpion Death Drop, which is a inverted DDT, into the pin for the 3 count and the illegal win. I'm going to give this tag match a 0 out of 10 for the logic of it. I'm just now going to show you this viewpoint as I'm walking to my next location to continue on my reviewing of this pay-per-view. I only have 2 matches left to go and then I'm basically done. This is now my viewpoint for where I'm going to give my reviews of the final 2 matches that happened on the AEW Double or Nothing 2021 pay-per-view, being the AEW triple threat match for the AEW Championship itself, and of course the Stadium Stampede in the main event. And I'll get to that in a few seconds. Right, so Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy versus Pac, triple threat for the AEW Championship. Yeah, I'm going to give this surprisingly a 5 out of 10, being half good and half bad. So yeah, when I give a match half good and half bad, that basically results in half a result, which basically means that it's a 5 out of 10. So yeah, to my surprise, I actually gave this something above a 0. So yeah, alright then. Now, before the entrances, we get shown a pre-match video package highlighting the build-up of this match. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the second match and the second only match out of all the matches to actually get a pre-match video package, which is a bit odd, because to me, if you're going to put on a pay-per-view, technically every single match on the card should have some sort of pre-match video package to highlight the build-up of why the match is happening to begin with. Okay, not every match necessarily needs to have one, but most of them should. So yeah, only having 2 matches out of about 9 or 10, I think, having an actual pre-match video package is a bit odd in my opinion. But oh well, it is what it is, so yeah. Pac makes his entrance down into the ring. Orange Cassidy, with a brand new theme song, makes his entrance down into the ring. And then Kenny Omega, the current reigning and defending AEW champion himself, makes his entrance down into the ring. Now, I am picking up my voice here because I am near the waves and I want to actually have my voice be heard, at least somewhatly, you know? Right, I don't really have much of anything to say about this match. The match was fine, but I didn't really care much for it. It wasn't really that much believable to me either. I mean, Orange Cassidy, for example, was paying more attention to his hands in his pockets than he was the actual match itself. I mean, he basically allowed Kenny Omega to attack him. He had his hands in his pocket staring at the crowd instead of trying to defend himself or even trying to attack Omega to try and get the win. He had his hands in his pockets and then he basically allowed himself to be attacked. Come on, how is that believable? Oh, come on now. Oh, and Kenny showing his arrogance by touting all of the championships that he has was a good showcase of being a heel. However, I don't have any investment in his character or the championships he's won, so that doesn't really mean anything to me with him doing that here in this match. I don't have any investment in him, so I don't care about what he's doing as the heel in this match. The end of the match, Kenny rolls Orange up in a cradle pin for the 3 count and the win. And of course I've already given this a 5 out of 10, so that is that. We now move on to the main event, being the Stadium Stampede match, in which the Inner Circle defeated the Pinnacle in a match I'm going to give, based on the logic, a complete 0 out of 10, and that is all I'm going to say about this match. The Inner Circle won, which means they are now still a team, so congratulations to them, I suppose, but I don't really care because I don't have much investment in them. So yeah, that is that. I don't have anything at all to say about the Stadium Stampede except from saying that it's a stupid, illogical match that has no place on a wrestling program. I never want to see this happen ever again. And now, to close out my reviews here of this pay-per-view, my overall logic rating for the entire AEW Double or Nothing 2021 pay-per-view is a complete 13 out of 90, being a 1.5 out of 10. That is 15% good, 85% bad. Woo-hoo-hoo! Now that's what you call a disappointing wrestling pay-per-view. Now, over to me going home. Woo! Now, did AEW go double or nothing to get me to reinvest into their weekly product? No, no, they did not. The answer is no, because they keep providing more of the same, and there's no sign of change happening for them anytime soon. So yeah, I'm not going to really be watching AEW from here on out. So yeah, my investment in AEW is at 0. Look, I don't want AEW to fail, because I just want them to succeed to the best of their abilities, because I don't want any wrestling company to fail, because I think all wrestling companies should succeed to their highest possible potential. It's just AEW to me feels like a mockery of what professional wrestling is, and that to me should not be celebrated the way that it does by many wrestling fans out there across the world. Again, I don't want them to fail, but at the same time, I don't see AEW as worth investing time into as a weekly product for a wrestling fan to watch. Look, I know wrestling is a very subjective topic, but in my honest opinion, and from my perspective, AEW isn't really a professional wrestling company. It's basically a lesser value of that. It's basically, like, it's got the same value as WWE to me. My camera battery died, so I had to quickly recharge it. Anyway, as I was previously saying, AEW has got the same value as WWE, and that to me is not a good thing to have, because WWE is basically at the bottom of the barrel. WWE is basically at the bottom of the ocean. WWE are basically dirt on the ground as far as I'm concerned. And if I'm going to put AEW in that category, basically being equivalent to what WWE is, then look, that is just not a good look. That is not a good sign for them as a company, in my opinion. Look, especially for what they are. And look, I don't want them to fail. I just don't. As I've said this now quite a few times, but at the same time, if they won't produce a product worth my time to invest in, to find believable to watch each and every single week, which, you know, the majority of the time it isn't, then I just don't see the point of them continuing to produce their programming each and every single week. To me, it's just not worth it. The quality isn't there. The quality is basically the lowest of the low. It's just not there, and that's a shame. And I know that's just my opinion, and I know it's very subjective, because what I like, somebody else might not like, and what somebody else might like, I might not like. You know, because that's how that goes, right? But in terms of AEW, I just don't like what they're putting on. I simply just don't. AEW is just becoming what WWE, and that's a shame, because that is basically what they're trying not to be. And yet, here they are, basically becoming, if not already are, exactly that. They are what, look, AEW is what they don't want to be. They have become their worst enemy, so to speak. AEW to me have basically failed on the majority of what they do, being a part of the wrestling business, because of course they don't treat it as a wrestling business. No, they treat it as a performance art, like they're owners of a circus, for example. And that to me just doesn't correlate to what professional wrestling is. Look, I just don't see the point. Now again, I don't want them to fail, but if they're not going to put on something that I should want to be a part of as a member of the wrestling audience, then I just don't see the point in them continuing on being a wrestling company. I don't really have anything else to say on the matter right now. So whatever you guys have to say about it, then go ahead and speak amongst yourselves. Chabo and Railsucker, I'll speak to you again in July for my actual return, because this was basically my, you know, teaser trailer for my eventual and, you know, proper return in July. So yeah, this is it from me for now. So yeah, au revoir pour instant me à me.